Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming to watch. So, guys, an update on Tropical Storm Erin. So, Tropical Storm Erin is expected to become a major hurricane as it gets dangerously close to the United States East Coast. Will it bring dangerous impacts to the Bahamas or even portions of the Southeast? I've got all the details coming right up. So, thanks for joining me here on this Wednesday or this Thursday evening. Wow, this week is going by fast. We have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to be going over all the latest details on really all the model guidance here for Tropical Storm Erin, soon to be Hurricane Erin here, making her way across portions of the tropical Atlantic. As you can see right now on satellite, she's looking pretty good. Again, kind of right in the center of your screen. You can see she is showing off some pretty good convection. We'll take a bit of a deeper dive later, but just looking at the environment around her, as right now you can see she is battling off a lot of this dry air, which is kind of slowing down the intensification process as of right now. But once all this dry air dissipates over the next couple of days, we'll likely see Erin go under rapid intensification, but so far, there is very minimal wind shear, so environmental conditions are still pretty conducive for gradual development. But we also do have homegrown system trying to spin up out here in the Western Gulf of Mexico. You can see just in the corner of your screen a little bit of convection going off there. That is from Invest 98L, I believe, which is currently trying to develop. I believe it has a 40% chance of development throughout the next couple of days. So we're going to have to be tracking that one, but we'll make sure that we can get an update in for you guys in a separate video. But we're going to be moving on here to the official National Hurricane Center forecast page here. We're going to be taking a look at what we got going on our screen. So once again, Tropical Storm Erin, this is as of the 11 p.m. Update. We still have a 70-mile-an-hour tropical storm, so this is on the brink of becoming a Category 1 hurricane. By the time you guys watch this video, probably around tomorrow morning, so Friday morning, we should have a Category 1 hurricane on our hands. I mean, the Tropical Storm Erin is only a couple miles per hour shy of Category 1 status. Central pressure is at around 998 millibars, so again, the storm is starting to definitely strengthen. The lower the number you see, the stronger the storm will get. And she's just moving pretty slowly, again, at about 17 miles per hour, west-northwest now. She was moving a little bit farther southwest than the official forecast cone, but now she's kind of focused her track here, and we'll make sure that we can get this down for you guys as best as possible. But the latest wording from the National Hurricane Center is that Erin is forecast to become a large and formidable major hurricane this weekend. So definitely something you do not want to see. But if we take a look at your current satellite, you can see as of right now, we do have obviously a lot of convection going on right around the center of circulation here with Tropical Storm Erin. I'm going to get that messy stuff off your screen. Hopefully this will fix it. But again, you can see a lot of that pink and even those purples. That's where you're seeing very, very deep, very, very explosive convection, where you see those very cold cloud tops. Alright, that's a good sign of a strong and strengthening storm. You can see a very tight center of circulation there, so widespread convection going on. You can see even those outer bands still really popping off some good convection, so very healthy system. Likely, going to continue to organize over the next couple of hours. Definitely likely to become a hurricane at least over the next 10 hours or so, and obviously major hurricane status is forecasted to be achieved from the system, but very, very strong system nonetheless out here as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. So speaking of which, we take a look at the official National Hurricane Center forecast cone. You can see as of the 11 p.m. update, our tropical storm wind field was pretty small, but the next update should be, or at least the next forecast point, is going to be pretty much the middle of the night tonight into tomorrow morning. We are expecting Erin to reach hurricane status and eventually grow into a major hurricane by Saturday evening. So really by our weekend, we should have at least a Category 3 hurricane on our hands. But if you notice, the track does take this just north of the Lesser and the Greater Antilles, north of Puerto Rico. We do actually have tropical storm watches going up for the northern islands here of the Lesser Antilles. So if you are included in those tropical storm watches, what you can expect are tropical storm force winds, very heavy rainfall. You're talking about, possible wind damage as well, and very, very rough seas. So you really want to make sure that you are getting your final preparations done. This could definitely shift a little bit farther south, but remember, even if you're outside of the cone, Erin is expected to become a very large, major Category 3 hurricane just a few miles north of the island. So the outer bands are definitely going to be able to pack potentially up to strong tropical storm force, maybe even hurricane force wind gusts. So definitely make sure you're staying on alert and you're staying prepared. I would not be surprised at all if these were upgraded to tropical storm warnings, and potential hurricane watches cannot be ruled out. So again, if you're in anywhere from the DR all the way to Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles, you guys need to be watching this over the next couple of days, because this looks to be packing a pretty widespread punch here as far as impacts go across the Antilles. So we move on here to the HWRF. This is our model prediction for Erin. This is our official hurricane model that we use kind of to forecast and predict what hurricanes are going to be doing. And you can see that the HWRF already has Erin dropping down to 981 millibars by Saturday afternoon. So this is just before the National Hurricane Center has Erin reaching major hurricane status. So it looks like the HWRF is starting this out a little bit weaker than the National Hurricane Center is going for. But it does finally undergo that phase of rapid intensification. Now, you'll see the Lesser Antilles are just down here on the bottom of your screen. You can see you do get lashed by some of these very, very strong outer bands here. So these tropical storm bands, water spouts are going to be possible, but definitely some tropical storm force wind gusts cannot be ruled out. You can see the southern edge of that eye wall, the outer eye wall especially, looking to be the biggest rainfall producer. So damaging wind gusts are certainly going to be an issue. This will also bring a very rough surf into the island, so make sure that you guys are prepared for possible storm surge. But the HWRF is kind of showing a better scenario for you guys, as it does not have that phase of rapid intensification until Sunday, which would be the next day. So again, if we do see that rapid intensification come later in the storm's life, that will likely come once the storm is well north of the islands, to the point where they will not be affected. So if we do see that that phase of rapid intensification happen or occur into your Sunday rather than Saturday a little bit later, then I do think that Erin will be a much less of a problem for the Antilles there. But you can see, as we do get into your Sunday morning, the HWRF has Erin dropping down to 955 millibars. So a ferocious Category 3 hurricane already. This is a major hurricane, and it just continues to drop. Gets down to about 938 millibars. So at this point, we're getting into near category, at least Category 4, near Category 5 status. So extremely dangerous. Cat 4 plus. Just north of the Bahamas here, you can see just the southern few islands here of the Bahamas in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. This is as we're getting into Monday afternoon. Again, this is a very strong hurricane still moving west, so this has not made its northern recurve yet. Still chugging west towards the southeast coastline. Do those tropical storm bands reach all the way to the Bahamas? Not quite on the HWRF. Maybe some showers and thunderstorms for the most southern islands there, but the HWRF says no impacts, no major impacts at least to the Bahamas, other than very, very rough seas and maybe some showers and storms, but that is really about it. So the HWRF spares the Bahamas and finally takes the storm a little bit further north, makes that curve, and keeps us down to a ferocious 940 millibar Category 4 hurricane here. And if we can take a look, let's see, at your PWATs here, excuse me, you can see just a very, very saturated eye there. I mean, this is a very, very strong system. You can see even maxed out just unbelievable, maxed out scale there. So if we take a look at the forecasted satellite here, this is the simulated satellite off the HWRF. You can see a pinhole eye developing already on future Erin here, or at least future Hurricane Erin. By the 18th. Now, if we look at the future satellite, you can see a lot of those tropical storm bands making all the way down to Puerto Rico. So there is definitely the possibility for limited impacts to Puerto Rico and even possibly the Dominican Republic. But that's pretty much going to be when the storm makes that northern curve. Now, the HWRF also does want the storm to be very expansive, so is it going too aggressive here with just the total coverage of the satellite, or is it being too conservative with the precipitation? Because remember, the precipitation map had almost no precipitation at all for the Bahamas. Now, according to the simulated satellite, it wants multiple tropical storm bands to reach the Bahamas. That is still a very real chance. So the storm becomes a huge Category 4 hurricane, and just that eye becomes so massive there as we get into the beginning of next week. So there's still a lot to figure out with this, but I would definitely not let your guard down if you're along the greater or lesser Antilles and even into the Bahamas. I do think that impacts are definitely still going to be possible with Hurricane Erin here. We're going to be moving on here to the GFS. As always, we're going to be comparing the GFS, the Euro, and we're actually bringing in a new model, the Icon, which it's not new to the channel, but we don't use it often. This time we're going to be using it for a reason, which we'll explain later. But if we take a look at the latest GFS, this is the 18Z GFS. You can see that we do have Erin down here. We'll actually switch this over to the Tropical Atlantic so you guys can get a better view at the beginning portion of the system. You can see that the GFS wants Erin to slide just north of the Greater Antilles there, or excuse me, the Lesser Antilles. Still some tropical storm bands are going to be possible. Bring some gusty winds, some heavy rain, some high seas out there. Does it reach the Bahamas? Not quite. It's a little, just tad bit farther north than where the HWRF had Erin, but I still definitely do think that some rain showers, maybe some thunderstorms, some gusty winds, and some rough seas cannot be ruled out. And if we switch things over here to the eastern U.S., get a closer look at this, we have a 941 millibar Category 4 likely hurricane, dropping down now to 938 millibars by your Wednesday. This is getting into the middle part of next week, and it does make that recurve, so it does not end up impacting the East Coast at all, except for the possibility of, again, those very large waves, which we can actually look at here, I believe. If we look at, significant wave height. So keep in mind, even if the storm does not directly impact the East Coast, this is going to generate huge swells and rip currents, rough seas all across the eastern seaboard. So look at this. You have, 10 to 15 foot waves impacting portions of the Carolina coastline. That's going to be an issue. So do not let your guard down if you're along the coastline. I definitely do think areas of inundation are going to be possible here. As this is going to be bringing huge waves and huge swells into the entire eastern seaboard, all the way from Florida up to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. So definitely some limited impacts, especially along the coastline, are going to be possible with Erin, even if it does make that total recurve out to sea. So that's the latest GFS. We take a look now at the latest European model. Now, the Euro does also paint a similar picture. We're going to start out, as always, by looking at the tropical Atlantic. You can see it does bring this a little bit farther south than the GFS and the HWRF. It does bring more of those outer bands into the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico, even into the Dominican Republic. So very heavy rain, gusty winds, and some areas of flooding are going to be possible. Some high waves. That's what the European is going for. Now we switch this over to the eastern U.S. Doesn't make it all the way to the Bahamas. Well, it does bring a few of those very outer bands into the most southern islands, but it really doesn't impact the Bahamas a whole lot much, and it, for the most part, goes out to sea. Now you can see it does get a little bit closer now to the east coast. It does slide its way west of Bermuda, so it still does like that farther west track. But at the end of the run, it still is moving north, likely curving out to sea, but it does spare at least the entire southeast coast of a direct impact as far as a landfall goes. So really, the Euro is saying that The storm will go mostly out to sea again. Not really sure about the rest of the run, but that at least the southeast is going to be spared from any major impacts other than obviously those very, very high waves, which again, we're talking about still, up to 10-foot waves being possible along the entire eastern seaboard. So, GFS saying that the storm will go completely out to sea. The European showing that the storm will be out to sea, but definitely a lot closer to the coast. Now we shift things over to the Icon. Now the Icon has been an outlier between all of the models today. The Icon has taken a very aggressive westward shift, or at least trend, with the latest runs here. You can see the latest Icon will look at the tropical Atlantics. We won't forget about you folks in the Antilles. You can see the Icon likes that southern track, brings a much more closer southern eyewall towards the greater Antilles, especially Puerto Rico here. So that's where you're talking about potential gusty winds and much bigger impacts. And instead of the storm going just north of the Bahamas, this plows right through all of the Bahamas here. That's why I'm saying this is an outlier. Take this all with a grain of salt. Make sure that you are, not telling your brother's, neighbor's, cat's, dog's cousin that we are going to see a major hurricane go right through the Bahamas on Sunday. That's not going to happen, but we can definitely say that this is still a signal that we could see still a western track. So instead of the storm curving out to sea, this goes right through the Bahamas and ends up moving its way a couple miles to the east of the Bahamas, sparing a technical landfall, but still bringing the outer eyewall into the Bahamas. Keep in mind the storm also does strengthen a lot on the Icon, getting this down to 927 millibars. So this is getting a full-blown Category 5 hurricane dangerously close to the Bahamas, but not only that, but also the southeast coastline. So the reason we're not ignoring this is because we did see overnight last night a huge westward shift in all the major models, but still most of them bring the storm out to sea. Although the Icon, which we're looking at now, still favors a much more western track and a possible landfall on either the Bahamas or possibly even the southeast coastline. Now, if the run continued, we'd be able to get, more details on what the Icon really wanted to show farther out, which I know most people are looking towards. But I can tell you that with this western track, if this were to play out, we would have major problems. But if we looked back at the forecast cone, you can see that the current cone actually brings a storm much farther north than where the Icon is painting this picture. So that's why I do think that the Icon is an outlier, but I will say that we cannot 100% rule something like this is track-wise playing out. So we move on here to the ensemble runs here. So this is going to be showing us where all of the European ensembles and the GFS ensemble members bring the storm. So kind of our spaghetti plots or spaghetti models, as we like to call it here. So you can see the European model, or at least the European ensemble, being made up of 51 members. It has tightened up a lot over the past couple of days, really favoring that northern track. Now, it does bring the storm once again dangerously close to the Lesser Antilles as well as Puerto Rico there. But pretty much all of these members have this thing curved way out to sea. Now, do they impact Bermuda? Not quite. Most of them take this just to the west of Bermuda. Do these impact portions of the East Coast? Only one or two make a direct landfall on the East Coast. In fact, only one of them does. But all of them pretty much take this out to sea. So the European ensemble and the operational run, they both agree that this storm will likely curve out to sea in between the East Coast and Bermuda, still very dangerously close. But we do avoid a significant landfall. This does curve north of the Bahamas. So really everyone's spared in this situation. Now we take a look at the GFS ensemble, and the GFS ensemble has a little bit of a different scenario playing out, where we see a much more western track here, still pretty spread out, meaning that there's still quite a lot of disagreement. But you can see that the track goes very close to the Lesser Antilles, especially Puerto Rico here. This is where you're going to get more significant impacts if we do see that southern track, but also a lot of these members going through the Bahamas, or at least clipping the edge of the Bahamas, and potentially going all the way up to the Carolina coastline. So the future is still not quite figured out yet, but there's still a small signal that the storm could take that southern track and potentially go a little bit closer to the southeast coastline, and also give some impacts to the Bahamas. But the GFS or ensemble being a little bit farther to the west does not bring the storm at least too close to Bermuda, to the point where we don't really see any impacts, at least from most of these members here, kind of making up the GFS ensemble. So we go back here to the operational run. I do want to show you guys this for a second, just to give you guys an idea of how this storm is going to be steered and how kind of it's going to be moving. So you can see as the storm continues to move up into the southwest Atlantic, you do have this ridge building across the northern U.S., dipping down to the southeastern U.S. This is going to help keep the storm from going right, plowing right into the southeast U.S. And I do also have this trough that's going to be digging down into the northeast and eventually Atlantic Canada that tries to pick up the storm. Now, the storm does try to take a little bit of a turn towards that trough, and it does not quite get picked up by the trough yet. But you can see this high pressure ridging really starting to kind of keep the storm away from the United States. So this high pressure is kind of acting as a defense mechanism to keep the storm from going right into the United States. And then this trough is close enough to the storm where it's going to be able to potentially pick it up and throw it out to sea. So we do see if that comes to fruition, and it does. The trough does stall out and eventually is able to pick up the storm and completely throw it out to sea. Now you look at, one of these runs from, let's say, the afternoon run of yesterday, pretty different story. You had much more ridging north of the system, and you had ridging building just to the east of the system. Now, what does that do? Well, that kind of creates a gateway for the storm to potentially go right into the southeast coastline and slow down there just before landfall, rather than going completely out to sea. That's what the icon is showing. That's what the icon wants to happen there. But the latest GFS disagrees and has completely ticked much farther east, with that trough placement being a little bit more early. So this is what's kind of steering the storm potentially out to sea. Again, I still definitely cannot rule out impacts to the Bahamas and maybe even the southeast coastline, but I will say it is very unlikely that we will see direct impacts to at least the southeast coastline, and most likely the Bahamas as well. Alright, so for the last part of the update, I do also want to take a quick look at the relative humidity values out here ahead of Erin, because as we did see on the satellite in the first half of the update, that Erin was battling some pretty dense Saharan dust ahead of the storm. And if you look at the GFS, it wants all of that dust to dissipate, and to the point where Erin is kind of cocooned in this huge, highly saturated pocket of air here, and it just continues to plow right through this very favorable environment, because again, you really don't see any major pockets of unfavorable air, and I mean, you really don't see too much high pressure ridging around the storm. So that's going to result in Erin being allowed to kind of fully develop into that Category 4 monster hurricane and eventually go out to sea. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for kind of watch. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you go hit that subscribe button, hit that like button for more updates on Erin, because we're still not even close to fully done with tracking the system. We have a lot more to figure out, but it is looking more and more likely that the storm will curve out to sea instead of making a direct impact to land. But we can certainly not rule out some high waves and potentially even a pretty significant impact to the Bahamas if we do see that more southern track. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you all for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video.